Hi, everybody. This is First Line Frenzy Live with special guest co-host Angie Hockman, author of Shipped and the forthcoming Dream On. I'm Becca Heyman, and we're going to wait a few minutes for everybody to come on in. Today, we're looking at a dozen lines from all of you, and I'm super duper excited to get Angie's take on those and see what's what. Hi, everybody. Oh, hi, Lauren. You did join from Florida while you're on vacation. Appreciate it. Prim is here. She's going to harass us for the next hour. Oh, Angie, here you are. I see you, and I'm inviting you to join. Hold on. I always kind of have to remember how to do that. Is it this way? Yes. Angie, check. You should have an invite from me to join the live. Let's see if, oh, it worked.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I love your background here. This is like prime, beautiful dream on. I had an ebook arc, so I don't have like a beautiful one to display. I'm displaying our snowstorm.
Oh gosh. Well, yeah. Oh, I think we have the same snowstorm. I don't know though. Where are you located?
I'm outside of Boston.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm outside of Cleveland. So,
well,
I'm feeling the snow too.
Probably the same storm then. This is Prim. Prim is here to participate.
Oh, hi, Becky.
She wrote one of the lines today. She writes literary erotica. So.
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm kidding. We don't have any literary erotica today. I'm so excited to have you here. This is like a dream come true, and I'm gonna fangirl for a little while everybody comes in. And I feel like I'm fangirling on behalf of everyone watching. You know?
Oh gosh.
But when I read Shipped, I was like, oh boy. I felt like prior to Shipped, my favorite enemies to lovers workplace romance was The Hating Game, which I feel is like, canon for that genre. But I felt in so many ways that Shipped improved on the model because of the rich friend group, and the very compelling secondary plot and the setting. I just felt like it was like the next generation, and it's one of my most recommended romances.
My goodness. Well, you are making me blush. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for inviting me here today. I am absolutely delighted to join.
It's really fun. It's a little addictive, I post every day. So if it was not fun, I probably wouldn't. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for people to get here, but I'd love to know what you're reading right now.
Ooh, so I just finished From the Jump. So that's Lacey Walden's next book. She wrote The Layover that came out last year. I adore her. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so if you like ships, that kind of like escapist thing, definitely check out The Layover. That takes place in Belize. And then From the Jump is so delightful. It's a rom-com, but she works in this really compelling friend group. So it's like a friends to lovers story, but I just wanted to crawl inside that book, hello, can I be friends with all your characters? It was so fun. It was so good. So I just finished that, and I just started As Seen on TV. That's another arc I have, and I'm only a few pages into that one, but it's looking promising. So
I'm trying to think if I saw that one on NetGalley. I get very overwhelmed by arcs, and I sort of eat with my eyes, and I sign up for all of the arcs I want, and then so they all pub the same day, huh? How's that going for me? I'm trying to finish By Any Other Name, which comes out on March 1st, and it's about an editor and a best-selling romance author who, based on the cover in the first chapter, I think everybody believes that this person is a woman, and in fact, it's a man, and hopefully, things are going to go well there. But it's always so fun to read about publishing. I always have a secret sort of yen for books about books. I think we all do. I think there's just something about the Bookshop of Second Chances was a great one that came out in the US last year. And that's about, this tiny little Prim. It's okay. Prim gets very excited when I speak above a whisper. So she's here you are. Hi, you're back. Okay. Everything's fine. She's just going to hang right here the whole time and stalk. She's going to stalk the feed. It's fine. Whatever. But yes, I'm reading By Any Other Name, a book about bookish people, which is promising. And I'm listening to The Rumor Game, which is YA. I think it's going to be suspensey. It has a Gossip Girl comp, which just makes my early aughts heart sing. And so far, so good. The narration's really good. It's got, I'm only on, I think, chapter 3, but there's already 3 POVs. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Oh, Kim says hi to you. Isn't that nice? See, everybody knows you. Prim is named after Primrose Everdeen from the Hunger Games. And she's Primrose Everkitten. And she's just as needy. So I think we're going to get started. It's 11:05. I like to be timely. So the first line frenzy vibe is gut reactions. You know, I can take care of all of the delicious, super boring grammatical problems that may arise, as is my one. Get out of my face. No, my lip gloss.
I love it, the extra challenge. Like, let's do this first line frenzy with like a cattail.
I know. It's kind of like, it feels like a game show where like I'm trying to do something serious and they're just going to like throw things at me until it doesn't go well. Okay. So anyway, we want your gut reactions, and keep in mind, maybe everything is numbered. We're starting at number 41. So if you have a favorite, write it down, because the winner of today, meaning our favorite line for whatever reason we decide, gets a copy of Shift and a pre-order of Dream On. And I know everybody is eager to have these things. So I am going to now, we're very high tech, you know, so I'm going to awkwardly just flip my camera. Welcome to my kitchen. And just move this here. Tell me if, let me move this around so that we can see all the words, which are important. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Can you see all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay, so I'll be in radio mode, meaning, you know, here but unseen, managing the cat. And I'm going to go ahead and read our first line. This is an adult historical. They were supposed to leave in July, but somehow the month had come and gone and the boat still wasn't finished.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. That's interesting. Okay, so right, that just strikes my imagination. Like, oh, they have a boat. It wasn't finished.
I know, and the question that arises for me is, how historical are we? Is it biblical? Like, is it the big boat? Is it the boat? You know,
very true.
Like an arch-shaped boat. Guys, if the screen is wiggling, it's because Prim is literally just rubbing her face all over my laptop. So for me, I like that the way that this introduces conflict right away, right? There's already a ticking clock in the background. They were supposed to leave, but they didn't. The boat's not done. So already I think there are big problems for our protagonists, which I appreciate. I never know how to feel. Well, I do know how to feel about it, but I'm not in love with they as a pronoun here.
Right.
It's a little vague, and that was again Prim's butt knocking into the camera. I feel like I'd love to know who they are. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I think it'd be stronger if there was, you know, names here. Who are they? Also, you know, they were supposed to leave in July. Were they supposed to set sail? You know, leave is a little bit vague as well, I think. You know, so if they're supposed to be setting sail on this boat, it may be fun to know that.
Yeah. So, a viewer, The Stars on the Horizon, commented, it's the Lewis and Clark expedition. And also says it's my line. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So that is interesting. I guess I would name the names. I might not even say Lewis and Clark, because that might seem a little too expository, but maybe depending on the tone of the rest of the novel, you might just use a first name for one of them, you know, or the name of the expedition group or something. But I would love to see you activate your characters here with a proper noun instead of a pronoun. A pronoun is just a little bit of weak sauce in a first line, unless it's really serving a lyrical purpose. So so I hope you'll consider that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we're going to move on to the next. Again, very high tech as I scroll. Here we go. Adult literary. There we go. This is a lot of words. Kelsapries. Okay. The stainless steel teaspoon lay on the wooden table, shining innocently, its clean, modern lines reassuringly contemporary, its weight and form exactly replicated across the cutlery set. But never had there been such a misleading and malevolent object. was a wild ride, right? I didn't expect that. I feel like
Yeah,
I was sort of lulled into submission by the sort of very evocative description of the spoon. And then things took a turn. I've never thought of a spoon as a malevolent object.
oh my gosh, ditto. Yeah, like that shook me at the end. I'm like, what? Oh my goodness, misleading and malevolent object. Oh, go on.
Now, that said,
Yeah.
that is a run-on sentence. We have a problem
Mhm.
here. Obviously, when we have a complete sentence after a conjunction, and, but, for, nor, or, but, so are your common ones. Sorry, with, not so. We need a comma to separate that primary sentence from the secondary sentence. But the independent clause that starts us off is already quite long. And I think for all that it effectively lulled both of us into a kind of trance about the spoon, a little hypnotic, if you will. I think it's a little too much to then squeeze that little twist onto the end.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that they can still achieve this by cutting out some of the middle part, some of the description. Yeah, I totally agree.
I think perhaps shining innocently is overkill because I think already I've never thought of a spoon as especially aggressive. And for that reason, to then call it a misleading and malevolent object does the work. I think shining innocently is almost redundant to the very idea of a spoon. It is the least violent of the cutlery. If I, forks and knives, both quite stabby, for sure. So let's see. The stainless steel teaspoon lay on the wooden table. Its clean modern lines reassuringly contemporary. Its weight and form exactly replicated across the cutlery set. I just don't know that we can even squeeze this little twist into line 1 or if it's secretly line 2.
Yeah, I'm of a split mind. I like that the twist would come at the end of this first line because it could really pack a punch.
Yes.
But I do like that, I keep going back and forth about, its weight and form exactly replicated across the cutlery set. Well, aren't cutlery sets like, isn't that a little bit obvious? Like, of course, like,
yes, it's
same,
already
right?
a set. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's needed, but then again, it kind of reinforces that this spoon, there's something special about this spoon, like
it's true.
by tacking that twist on. But it's definitely interesting, and it definitely caught my attention, this one.
I'm just curious. I'm just to see how it feels. Let's see what happens when we do this. The stainless steel teaspoon lay on the wooden table, its clean, modern lines reassuringly contemporary, but never had there been such a misleading and malevolent object.
Boom.
Mic drop.
Yeah. No, I love that.
It's like a little creepy even. I'm very intrigued by this. And it deserves a dance. I will say to the author of this, literary fiction already has a reputation for belaboring minutia. And so when you hit us, like my first thought when I pulled this out of the list was, oh, it's literary, before I even looked at the genre, because like, who else is going to talk that long about a spoon? So I think, it's okay to give us just what we need, but not everything you want. And that is, I think, an important lesson. And maybe, Angie, you can speak to that. But it's important, especially at the beginning, to give what the reader needs to get out the gate and pull back everything else, which I think is a real exercise in, judicious application of writing.
Yeah, first lines are hard, y'all. I mean, sometimes
joke.
less is more. It's like, because you don't want to lose anybody, of course, on that first line if it kind of goes on and on. But you want to capture their attention, their imagination. Something about it should be grabbing the reader, I think, by the collar. Like, come on, like, keep reading.
Yeah, and certainly a malevolent spoon. I consider me grabbed. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave the edit because we think it's so good. So you're welcome. Okay, I've speckled in a good amount of romance, just because #joy. So this is adult romance. It wasn't until I planned my little sister's bachelorette retreat that I decided to change my surname back to Roberts. Yet as the plane touched down on the peninsula runway of St. Thomas, I still hadn't gotten around to it. It's a lot. It's too much.
Yeah, I'm like sitting here like what am I supposed to focus on a little bit? Like, okay.
Yep, my
I mean,
challenge here is so many time cues.
mhm.
So we already have it wasn't until, which is already like a weird when is now, when is then. And then it's I decided to change my name, but then as the plane touched down, so now we're in a new present, and then I still hadn't gotten around to it. That's still sort of a past progressive. So this
Mhm.
is like when Dorothy asks the scarecrow which direction, and he points in both directions. That's kind of how I feel. There's a lot of preposition work here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking like, what am I? Yeah, like it's just I'm having trouble wrapping my head around exactly like you said. When is this? What's going on? Yeah, I mean, I love that. It's like you have this writer brings in Little Sister's Bachelorette retreat, and the whole thing with the changing the surname back to Roberts. Like, is she getting a divorce? Like, that's interesting, but it's so varied right now. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
like
the
yeah,
lead
maybe
is super varied.
simplify. Yes,
I'm
yes.
wondering if it wouldn't be more intriguing to say something like, um, to maybe make it more about identity. Like,
Mm,
maybe let our reader wonder if she's on the lam. Like, as the plane touched down on the peninsula runway of St. Thomas, um, I was still the woman I promised myself I'd leave behind in New York.
yes, yes.
Right? Something
Something
like
like that.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Yep.
know that maybe then we know that St. Thomas isn't home. We know that there was an intention to be someone new by the time she arrived,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't quite happen. I'm going to, for posterity, just type that edit. So I love this peninsula runway thing.
Mm-hmm.
As the plane touched down on the peninsula runway of St. Thomas. Whoops. I don't know. Something like, mm,
And I like what you just said. It was like I was, oh yeah, I hadn't yet become the woman I hoped to
yeah,
be, or something like
the
that.
woman I promised
I
myself
promise. I said yes,
I would be, or something like that,
something like
folks.
that. Yes,
Something
yes.
like that. We like just randomly start rewriting books here. Um, oh, we have a comment here from Sale Half Dozen, and they say, "Are we talking USVI St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands St. Thomas, because the runway is not in the peninsula?" Oh, fact check.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah. Huh.
all right. So just to be on the safe skis, there we go.
Oh, yeah, I don't know my St. Thomas.
Well, but in that sense, I would just say in. Why say it in five if you could say it in one?
Indeed,
You know,
totally.
that could be because the idea of a peninsula runway is quite unique and intriguing
Mm-hmm.
and spatial. But if it's not there, then we must release it to the wild. Okay,
Yes.
so we say kindly fact check, get on that Google Maps, and keep it tight. There's just no reason for all this is a little too much info dump right at the
Mm-hmm.
forefront. So also give us a little intrigue. This is very mysterious. Ooh,
Indeed.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
intrigued by my own edit. Go figure. Okay, this is an adult thriller suspense. For followers of First Line Frenzy know that I don't read adult thriller suspense because I get too scared. I can only stomach YA thriller suspense, which is just the right amount of terrifying for me, where my blood pressure doesn't go up too much. But alas, here it is. He waited, nestled under a pile of fallen orange and yellow autumn leaves, vengeful eyes glued to his target.
Interesting. I definitely see the thriller here,
Oh, it
getting the
feels
thriller vibes.
thrilling.
Yes.
Feels
Yes.
like shit's
So,
about to go down, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. Like on point for the genre there. I'm curious whether this story is being written in third person deep point of view. If so, it's like, well, vengeful eyes glued to his target, that feels, do you really need to be saying that? What is the target,
Hmm.
Um, hmm, yeah.
There is that disparity, right? Where like we're far enough
Hmm.
away to watch this person waiting, but we are internal enough to know about his vengeful eyes glued to a
Exactly.
target. And so I think this
Exactly.
is something I think a lot of people revert to third person thinking this is the most dexterous and accessible POV. But in
Mm-hmm.
fact, there's a real consideration about where the narrator or the narrative persona exists in relation to your characters. My guess about this, my gut says this is a prologue, which I'm going to tell you to get rid of anyway, because it's just probably not necessary. But I suspect that chapter 1 would find us in a close third, or even first person, likely close third.
Mm-hmm.
And so to this author, I would say you are opening with inaction. Waiting is not movement. Now, action is not the same as movement. Action progresses the plot. Movement just changes a character's spatial relationship to the environment around them. That said, I always question the wisdom of starting with a stop. And here we have a moment of pause instead of a moment of movement. And so I think this might be the right scene, but the wrong moment. And we have big questions about the closeness of the narrative persona.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of telling here instead of showing, vengeful eyes glued to his target. It could be even stronger to say, you know, eyes narrowed on his target, you know, so yeah, but I agree. Yeah. It's like you feel the thrill, you know, like, okay, like I get it, you know, there's like something about to happen, but I totally agree, you know, start with a moment of action.
Yeah. Kelly comments, nestled under, makes it sound like he is under the leaves. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it too long, it kind of seems like he's burrowed beneath. I mean, which,
like taking a nap.
Yeah. Like, or
cozy.
just like in weird camo, you know, and just like kind of hiding, which is a possibility. So again, I love a voyeuristic opening. I love an opening that feels on the cusp of danger, but I think this is probably not the exact right entry point for this. Now there's a big discussion in the comments about the nuanced nature of the word nestled. So we're going to move on. I'm going to leave you to that in the comments. Number 45, YA Sci-Fi. When 16-year-old Eloise Berkeley showed up at the Milwaukee Center for Unwed Mothers, she thought she'd be signing adoption papers, not birthing humanity's last hope. Hey! Whoa!
All right. Yes.
Do we think Center for Unwed Mothers should be capped? It feels like a place.
Yes. Yeah. If it's like a proper name for a place, I think it should be capped.
And whereas
especially
humanity,
if it's like the Milwaukee Center, you know, yes.
Right.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Whereas humanity, this to me is the instinct that all sci-fi writers have to capitalize all important nouns forever. Whereas I think there's something a little more elegant about letting that be a slightly quieter noun. Like
I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah, there's just like a little more elegance to that. I love this.
I love it too. Oh, like grabbed me. Oh, yes. Like got me by the throat. I want to know about humanity's last hope for sure.
Yeah. Lauren said the same thing. Love this. Switch the capitals. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is just like a mild execution error, but I wouldn't change anything else about this.
Me neither. Perfect.
I'm so intrigued. Like, I want to know who the father is. I want to know why the baby's being put up for adoption. I want to know if anyone is with her. I'm just so curious about everything happening here.
Yes.
And it really portends a high tension, high impact, high stakes scene that's about to happen, but it does that without sucking the air out of the room. A lot of times when we see these like slightly portentous sort of omniscient first lines, they can often undermine the tension of what we're about to see unfold. But I don't feel that at all. I feel like the tension's at an 11.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like this is just perfect balance, like perfect amount of information of, you know, not feeling like too much, but then like that last of birthing humanity's last hope. But it was, oh yes, just so well done.
I'm into this. Good job, author. Way to go. Oh, yes. Okay. Number 46, another adult thriller suspense. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm not afraid of the first line, so that's why it's okay. It was sort of a boy who cried wolf situation.
This is so interesting to me that this is an adult thriller suspense. If if this had been a rom-com, I could kind of see this as a first line. Like it was sort of a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation, you know, like just
Yes.
in a different sort of voice. Like I'm hearing like a young woman say this, but it doesn't. I mean, it's interesting in terms of the Boy Who Cried Wolf situation, but who? You know, there's no who, there's no when. I like that it brings in some kind of like stakes or a little conflict hinting at that, but it feels like we need more.
We definitely need more. Lauren, it's me, Lauren says, has YA vibes. And I do agree.
Yeah.
You know, it is a word that stands in, its only function is to stand in for other more specific nouns. And the noun it is referring to is the situation. So we have our pronoun extremely far away from the noun. So this is a pronoun antecedent issue for me when they're so far from each other in space. I also think this is a milquetoast word and this is a milquetoast phrase.
Yes,
sort of.
Right.
This is like, it is or it isn't. And well, I understand how it could be and could not be, but this brings up a lot of issues for me about believing victims and believing, you know, there's an inherent problem with this situation, though, of course, the story of the Boy Who Cried Wolf is about a liar who lies so often that no one believes him when the truth comes a knocking. So I guess this just is a lot to unpack. And it's not the kind of happy unpacking that we were doing in the previous line. So I think certainly I'd like to see more specificity in the subject matter. I'd love to get a character on the page here. Instead of focusing on the situation, focus on the character at the center of the situation and give us a hint about who or what is happening. I think this is a great idea, but I don't know that this is how you want to say it. For example, you might say, just completely sort of making up my own situation, you know, when the break-in finally happened, Lauren regretted all the false police reports she'd filed in the months prior, or something like that, right? So you can show us that it's a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation without saying it was sort of a Boy Who Cried Wolf situation. So I think that's this is a show don't tell situation. This is a lot of telling and we need more showing. And Lauren, yours was the last comment and that's why I used your name. I don't think you file false police reports about burglaries. Okay. All right. Oh, another romance. Huzzah. I walk up the cold steps while my heart beats hard, fast, feeling like it's about to leap out of my chest.
So, okay. I think there's a couple of things about this that pop out to me. Number one, I walk up the cold steps. Walking, it doesn't usually make your heart race. So I'm assuming that there's something else emotionally going on. Is this person, I'm assuming it's a she, but it might not be, you know, like this person, are they nervous? Are they scared? Or, you know, what's going on here? Feeling like it's about to leap out of my chest. This is being written in first person. So again, I don't think you need that feeling because we're already in this character's head. So
yes.
You know, you don't need that.
It's
that
in first line frenzy language, we call this a filtering word, which is any word that draws attention to the use of the five senses in an ordinary way.
Right.
For example, in first person, I looked at, and then describing the thing that was seen. We don't do that. We don't like filtering words here. I agree with you. Let's talk about this cliche.
Yes, that's very cliche. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of ways to get across, you know, your heart pounding. And sometimes it can be even, you know, just as effective to say my heart pounded. You don't necessarily have to wax eloquent, but, you know, I would say try to bust that cliche, you know, number one. And I would like to know more about the why. You know, if there is some sort of emotional reason behind this heart pounding situation, hint at that here. Or instead of walk up the cold steps, walk is kind of a, you know, a little bit blah, you know, just walking around. Is she racing up the steps? Is she trudging up the steps? Like, what word could you use there to to hint at her emotional state. You know, if it's trudging, it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. If
Yes.
she's racing, then it's like, oh, I can't wait to get up here. So like even just that one simple word choice, I think can show the reader a little bit more of what's going on.
And that emotional state. I also
Yes.
feel like trudging up the courthouse steps is very different from racing up the courthouse steps, right? With like,
Yes.
are we going to the magistrate's office to get married, or are we like going to the bowels of the courthouse to sign our separation papers, right? Like,
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
is happening?
Right. Or what step? Yeah, is it the courthouse? Is it the hospital? Is it your best friend? Is it your mom's? Like, yeah, like
Right.
what steps? What steps?
Yeah, like is
Tell us where you
is
are.
this the childhood home you haven't been back to for 20 years? The world wants to know. So again, I think this is, you know, the positives here are you have us coming in on the threshold of what seems to be a tense moment, but we don't have even a fraction of the information that we need about that. I'm also going to point out that this whole 3/4 of the sentence is devoted to describing something that we all experience every day, hopefully for a long time, right? So where this is what we call prime real estate, right? First line does a lot of heavy lifting. It's prime real estate. The curb appeal here is low because there's a hint of conflict, but not enough, and there's no character. And we really, really are looking for those two things, especially in line 1. Onward. Oh, another YA fantasy. Okay. You know, I always feel surprised when I see the genres, even though I make this document. We can't know. Oh, hi, Jen. Jen Udden is here. She's a very, very talented editor and former literary agent and scout. She's amazing. So, hi, Jen. He emerged from an egg, that boy, shattered the giant golden barrier with tiny fists, and kicked his way out. Huh.
Okay. Yeah.
This, I just need to briefly mention that when we have two adjectives in series, we only use a comma when you could otherwise use and. So would we say giant and golden barrier, or just giant golden barrier? We would use the latter. And so you heard it when I was reading. I thought it was shattered the giant, not shattered the giant golden barrier. Therefore, we eliminate this comma. Your thoughts?
So the very first time I read through this, the punctuation, I think, tripped me up with like the M dash, and I'm a big fan of M dashes, not saying.
Oh yeah,
no,
we all love an M dash. This one is a problem though. You're right.
Indeed. Yeah, like something about it, like he emerged from an egg, that boy. When you read it, when I could hear it, I'm like, okay, now I'm grasping this. And I think it's very evocative, you know, this image of this little baby busting out of a golden egg, and this is a very active baby to be, you know.
Like, I think babies birthed from golden eggs probably have more faculties than, you know, our boring body birthed babies, maybe.
Indeed. Yeah. So no, but like I'm intrigued. I'm like sitting totally about like, oh, you know, so I definitely, you know, it is an evocative image here. He emerged from an egg. Yeah, I wonder if this is another prologue as well.
Invariably it is if it's YA fantasy, which again, stop that. It's not that prologues are inherently bad. I want to be really clear that there's nothing wrong with a prologue. It's just that so many of them don't function. They are not necessary, and they end up being these long navel-gazing cosmologies of how the world began. And I don't really need to know any of that in order to engage with character and engage with conflict. And so, you know, I think there are better ways to build a world than by info dumping for 15 pages and calling it a prologue. But I'm going to get off my soapbox. It's an evocative image, but the execution here is very wonky. I'm confused by this that boy M dash situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Why not this?
Yeah, that makes it so much more immediate.
Yeah.
An egg shattering. Yeah. Yeah.
Or
no, I like that change.
Tiny fists, I actually prefer. Tiny fish shattering the giant golden barrier. Because the kicking isn't with the tiny fists. So we have some more work to do here. He emerged from an egg, tiny fists shattering the giant golden barrier before kicking his way out.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Before kicking his way out. Yeah. No, I think that makes it stronger.
I mean, it's a very cool image. This, you know, super strong baby. I wonder if that boy was there to let us know that that the figure is human or humanoid. Do we think maybe? Because this feels bird-like.
Yeah.
You could also say the boy, right? The boy emerged.
The boy emerged from an egg. I like that a lot. Yeah, instead of just the pronoun he, it's the boy. You know, and maybe it's intentionally vague, you know, the writer wanting to say that boy or the boy. But again, yeah, who is the boy? Is there a name? Is there something a little bit more specific to put there? But maybe not, you know, maybe it's supposed to be
a couple
a little
of
bit mysterious.
Our viewers, LA Long Writer and Delish0922, suggest that that boy sounds voicey and it makes it feel like someone's watching this unfold. And to that I say, let that person or that figure be the narrative voice here, and put fewer barriers between what's happening and your reader's experience of what's happening. You know, as few barriers as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I think we made it better. I think without more context, it is hard to say exactly if we nailed it, but I definitely think this is less awkward, which is a win. Okay, we have just a few more to go, and then we'll talk about some bookish things. So this is an adult fantasy. Someone forced Sister Marie's shoulders down until her knees buckled and she collapsed. They ripped off the heavy hood, dislodging her veil and taking a few hairs with it. This is a violation of the first line frenzy rules of existence because this is a comma splice. Comma splice occurs when a comma is used in place of end punctuation, such as a period or semicolon, to connect two independent clauses. So we can still look at the whole thing, but I see you, comma splice. We know what you're about.
Yeah, that was the first thing that stuck out to me. I thought this should be two sentences.
Yeah.
Someone forced Sister Marie's shoulders down. I mean, I like that this is set in a very tense scene. Like, oh my gosh, sister, like somebody's like assaulting a nun. What?
Yeah.
But
bad news for Sister Marie.
Yikes, poor Sister Marie. Someone, is it the intruder? Is it,
right?
You know,
yeah,
who is the someone?
Strengthened.
Yes. Forced Sister Marie's shoulders down until her knees buckled and she collapsed. Instead of
redundant, right?
It is, yes. I mean, and I think that you could, again, it feels like a little bit of telling, you know, like you're telling the reader she collapsed, but can you bring the reader a little bit more deeply into Sister Marie's point of view, or like into the moment, until her knees slammed against the concrete floor, you know? So just a thought.
Maybe.
Dark hood was ripped away, dislodging her veil and taking a few hairs with it. Yeah, I like this. Typically, I wouldn't like as the dark hood was ripped away. It's a little bit passive, but the fact that if she doesn't know who is doing it,
that's why.
That works.
That's what I was thinking too. Actually, as I was typing it, I was like, well, it's a little passive, but if we're not naming someone, then we may as well make them entirely unseen in the sentence, right? If they're not on the page, they're not on the page. I also feel that, you know, someone forced Marie's shoulders down makes it seem like she's bowing forward, but until her knees buckled and she collapsed. Frankly, if I'm like a kidnapper wanting someone to kneel, I would either like kick the back of their knees or push them to the ground. This just seems like a lot of language to say this.
Yes. And it may be, you know, given that there's this sort of religious figure here, I think it could be entirely possible that whoever's doing this has some sort of religious motivation. Maybe they want her to bow to some other kind of religious figure that isn't her own. So maybe it is what you originally thought, that they want her to bow down. But I think that either way, that needs to be made a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
So if it's just that they're shoving her to the ground so she's not standing anymore, well then, yeah, knees slamming into concrete makes sense. But I agree, it's a little too wordy initially.
Yes.
Yep.
Lauren, a different Lauren, also says that taking makes it feel more like a violation, like stealing. And I like that a lot is being stolen here. Obviously, Sister Marie has been stolen from somewhere and brought against her will somewhere else. I love the idea that she assumes a posture of prayer but in a very violent way. I think that that's very interesting. So I think, again, right moment, wrong execution. Better execution could probably still use refinement, but when we go off the cuff, these things happen. This is an adult mystery. I allowed this. I'm just going to say I broke my own rule. I know first line equals first sentence, but you will see why. Don't come for me with the pitchforks, first line frenzy fam. Okay, heartbreak. It was strange that I could describe it as the music of a great orchestra.
Okay. I love that image of describing heartbreak as the music of a great orchestra. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
My initial thought, I'm like, does this person have synesthesia? Whatever it's called, like the condition where you like hear colors and it's you perceive the world a very different way. So I'm wondering, is that what's going on here? I'm not a big fan of it was strange.
Yes.
If this is like something that's new that's happening to this character, like all of a sudden they can describe heartbreak as the music of a great orchestra because of something they experienced or whatnot. There's, I think, a different way to get that across. But heartbreak, the music of a great orchestra.
I'm always wary of a colon in line 1, and this also makes great seem like weak sauce for sure.
Yes.
But
yes.
I agree with you that this is just so much filtering.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it strange that you could describe it that way? Are you a poet? Then it's not strange at all. Are you a musician? Right. It's even less strange. Are you an aficionado of the arts? Here we go, still not strange. So I feel like this is telling me how to feel, and you cannot editorialize your readers' feelings, my friends. I see this most often in query letters. My novel is a heartbreaking yet comic exploration, yada, yada, yada. You can't editorialize the way I feel about your writing. And so to tell me how strange it is that you are able to describe something in such a way is a little weird for me. So I don't love this. I do love this part. I think this is not your first line, but it should be the core message of your first line.
Yep.
It does not feel very mysterious to me at all. It feels like lit fic. Right?
Yes. No, I agree. It's like whatever that strangeness is, whatever that element is of that mystery, like pull that in. I think first line should be showing what is sort of the premise of the book or the promise of the book. What kind of vibe are you going to be delivering? Whatever, based on whatever the genre is. If it's a mystery, bring that element of mystery in. So I think it needs a little more, but I do love that image though.
It's a weird and wonderful idea. It just needs to be refined here. Okay, This is our last line for the day, but I hope everyone will stick around for a little chat with Angie. I decided to close with an adult romance because duh. Darcy murmured a thank you to the servant who poured her wine and received a startled glance in response.
Well, okay. There's like a lot going on. Like there's like a lot of kind of head hopping feeling going on here. Like, Darcy murmured a thank you to the servant who poured her wine and received. So the servant received a startled glance in response. So Darcy did the startled glance, I think.
Yeah. So this is another pronoun antecedent cluster because it's Darcy, I suspect, who receives the startled glance because her thank you is not typical. That's my guess here.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't even like quite reach it there because I'm still just trying to parse out like who's doing the glancing and who's doing
this is another scarecrow pointing in all directions.
A little bit.
It's this who and her, because technically both so what we look for is the pronoun closest to the antecedent, meaning the preceding noun, is the noun that's what it refers to. So who correctly refers to the servant, but her also refers to the servant. And that's where the confusion is really coming from.
Yeah.
So obviously we need Darcy, if Darcy is the focal character here, to be present and active in the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't need this startled glance from the servant at all. It's telling. I would almost rather see I don't know, maybe like they spill a little bit because they're so surprised by a very basic nicety. I don't know.
Well, I wonder if the story is even starting in the right place, to be honest. And, first of all, I mean, the sentence is not in chronological order, it seems. So Darcy murmured a thank you for what? Well, was she murmuring thank you because the servant poured her wine? So really, when you're, telling a story, you want to bring the reader along in kind of real time. So it's like you start with, well, the servant poured the wine, Darcy murmured a thank you, and the servant blinked, so, or whatever, like, because they were startled. But why? Like, there's no before image here to me. If the servant is so surprised by this Darcy character murmuring thank you, that must be a change for her. So what was she like before? You know what I mean? Like, I just am kind of, it seems like a little bit of an odd place to start.
It's funny,
to me,
you said, what was
more.
she like before? And I was thinking Darcy must be like the lone kind person in a sea of rotten people, but maybe she was also rotten, and now everyone is surprised when she says thank you. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, so ultimately we don't know what this is about. We're just, I agree it's probably the wrong place. I also think that pouring wine and, saying thank you is kind of boring. I'd love to know where they are and more about what's going on. I think this is probably not maybe the right scene, but the wrong moment.
Yes. Yeah. And I do like the little kind of conflict, a little tension there with like the servant being surprised at an action of the main character. Like, but yes, it's like, I feel like feel around that scene and maybe find a slightly different spot to anchor your story there in the first line. But you're onto something. We're
curious. Yes. Okay, I'm coming back. Nobody be alarmed. It's always alarming when I'm like suddenly my giant face is back onto the screen. I know what my favorite of the day was. Do you know what your favorite of the day was?
I do. I made a little star on my notes right here.
What was it?
Okay, so my favorite was number 45.
Yeah, that's my favorite too. It was that YA sci-fi about the Milwaukee Center for Unwed Mothers, which I think was just so great. And I'm not sure if the author is here now. If you are, you can say hi. Otherwise, I will reach out to the author. I have your email address if you filled out the form correctly. We'll see. But yeah, I love that one too. So what do you think? Your first line, Frenzy, did you have fun?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
Good.
It's so funny. I was an English teacher for like a hot second many years ago, and I'm like dusting off the cobwebs, like, oh my, this is like reaching back into my past, and I have other writers that we exchange pages sometimes and do critiques, but it's been a while since I'm like, oh, like let's like really look at this and
what grade level did you teach for that brief moment?
I taught 8th grade English, which was
That's rough.
great.
Just 8th grade in general, I feel like is hard.
It is. I think that is a very interesting age, very challenging age. They're the top of the pile of the middle school, top dogs, but they're still so very young, but they're also kind of discovering who they are, and they can be very sassy, but it was a very fun experience. It was interesting. Yeah.
I taught an SAT prep course in this like very remote part of Brooklyn when I was working maybe on my master's degree, and I was terrified. Like, I cannot tell you how scared I was that I would be underqualified to teach an SAT prep course to ESL learners. And I was just like, they're all so smart, and they're just gonna think I'm an idiot. I was so worried. And then like 2 weeks into the course, one of these kids finally comes up to me as like a spokesperson for the class and is like, can you slow down? Oh. I was like, oh no, what have I done? I was like a assigning reading every night. We were reading The Once and Future King, you know, which like obviously is a great book. But I was assigning like, you know, 15 to 20 pages of reading a night and all this stuff. And apparently this was like, it was way too intense. And I always think about how ready I was to fail instead of assuming that like I could look at, you know, as a yoga instructor, you learn to look at your students and teach what they need in their bodies. But when my like sole experience of teaching English was just like a major disaster of not being able to see my students where they were. And so I've tried to, I think, improve on the model ever since. Like,
Well,
I haven't stopped teaching.
I was gonna say, like, you're awesome. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't even remember all the grammar rules. I mean, like, I think I like kind of inherently know them just from like writing, but I couldn't tell you about a split infinitive anymore. Like, I don't like what is that called? So
I
hey,
do
awesome.
love my like giant orange copy of the Chicago Manual. You know, it's.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure I have one around. I should probably dig it out.
I love it so much, but I'm a Luddite about it. Like they have an incredible online platform, but I can't bring myself to do it. I like I like searching. I like, it's like its own little archive. It's very charming. So I want to, before we close, talk about Dream On, which I really loved. I don't want to say anything spoilery, but what I will say is that I'm like wholeheartedly recommending this for all of my fellow fans of like every Sandra Bullock rom-com ever released in the 90s. And there's a specific one that is a little spoilery. So I think my review mentions that specific movie, but I won't say that yet. All I will say is I couldn't put it down. I really loved it. What made you, like, where did the idea come from for this?
Yeah, so funny enough, it actually, the little nugget of this idea came from a dream I had. So it was a couple years ago, and I had a dream. It was very vivid at the time that I had met somebody and basically just was best friends with this person. Like we were in a bar and we were chatting. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like my platonic soulmate. This was not a romantic dream. I'm happily married. But like, I don't know. Like, and I woke up and for just the briefest second, I thought, oh, I'm so glad I have that best friend. You're like, oh, I love this person. And then in the next instant, I was crushingly disappointed when I realized, oh, that was a dream, that none of that was real.
Oh.
And because I'm, you know, a rom-com author, you know, and I just tend to, you know, randomly think of things and my brain pings around like a pinball, I started musing on this dream and I thought, well, what if it was romantic? And what if, you know, a woman were to dream up this guy and she's in love with him, but then when she wakes up, he's not really real. And oh, what happens if he actually is real eventually, you know, and she meets him and oh my gosh, how might that come about and what might happen? And would he believe her story? And, you know, so that I just kind of got the wheels turning on a lot of what if questions. And I had a lot of fun sort of cooking it up from there.
I couldn't figure out. I'm hard to stump because I read a lot, right? Like I read 4 or 5, sometimes 6 books a week. It's very hard to like bamboozle me, but I could not figure it out until it happened in the book. And I was so happy for that because I am often like my brain spoils books for me, you know, so I loved it. I want to tell anyone out there who's curious about this, that it is not like this is not like an amnesia trope. It's not like a forgetting trope, which personally doesn't appeal to me. If you read Wish You Were Here, the recent Jodi Picoult release, it is not like that at all. Thank goodness. That was an It's All a Dream situation around the 50% mark, and I was pretty angry about that. But I should blame you because I only picked up that book because it takes place in the Galapagos. And I was like, I love ships. I was like, I would love to read about the Galapagos again. And then so I like get super invested in the Galapagos, and it's like the Galapagos during the pandemic. I'm so curious about this island, and it shows so much.
It's all a dream.
And I like raged through the second half of the book, and I was like, I just gotta read ships again. Forget this book. I'm so upset.
Well, I'm like super curious. I mean, now that I know, like, I would be real mad if I was reading a book and then you know, like halfway through, I'll be like, oh, come on. Oh, come on. But if I know going in, maybe I'll
copy.
check it out because I'm always curious to see how other authors capture the soft growth.
Well, read the first 50% and then just
There we
close
go.
it. Like, that's what I would do. Because the first 50% was super compelling. And then I was like, what? And apparently, one of the things that I really thought was so interesting about Dream On is that in the course of reading Wish You Were Here, I learned that some people who have experienced COVID have these like incredibly vivid, they are called COVID dreams, where people like wake up and they know another language, or like they had full lives in their dreams. And it's now this like, it's such an incredible concept. And so I was happy to see that kind of vividness given a treatment that I really loved and enjoyed reading about in Dream On. And I can't wait for everybody to read it. So it comes out in July, right?
Yep, July 5th. It is available to pre-order now in ebook and trade paperback. It also, I don't know if it's currently available to pre-order in audiobook, but it will be available in audiobook at some point. And bonus, there is a Goodreads giveaway going on right now through, I think, the 28th. So you have a couple more days to enter. So it's Gallery Books is giving away 50 free arcs. So enter for a chance to win one. And that's Dream On right here. So.
It's so beautiful. It's stunning. I love the cover. I have my bouquet here because I didn't know if it would end up in our things. I like really tried to take a beautiful picture with like the e-arc in front of some beautiful flowers. I'm just so bad at Bookstagram when it comes to like artfully advertising books that I'm sorry for failing. But
no, oh my goodness.
I verbally all the time.
No, and I just appreciate that so much. I mean, oh my gosh, and the fact that you didn't see the twist coming is like the biggest compliment. Thank you, because I was hoping, I'm like, well, I hope I can pull this off. So I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Very hard to bamboozle, and you did it. Like, I'm hard to surprise. My husband is always annoyed because when we watch shows, I'm like, that guy's gonna die, and he'll be like, no, like for sure not. And I'm like, he's a goner. It's done. And he'll be like, how did you know? And I'll be like, well, didn't you see the way he put away his socks? It was a clue. I think it's very Sherlockian. I like really live my like best Sherlockian life when I'm consuming most media.
Same here. Oh gosh, yeah. I'm like the worst like peanut gallery when I watch stuff with my husband. He gets so mad. He's like, I don't want to know. Be quiet. Because I'm like, oh, this is what's gonna happen.
And I have to like really like clamp down and just, but yeah, it definitely got me in the best way. I'm still thinking about it. I think I read it a couple weeks ago, and I requested it as soon as it was available on NetGalley, and I inhaled it immediately. Not for nothing. It completely, I have a very like stringent arc reading schedule because I'm always behind. And I was like, well, sorry to everyone. This goes to the top of the line. It comes out in July.
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. And well, oh gosh. And I just had a thought. So I have not, like, I've only shared this with my newsletter subscribers, but if folks are interested, I'd be happy to read the first line of Dream On.
Yes.
Read is that
the
okay?
First line. I will say that closer to release day, I will do a first line it will be like a beautiful first line frenzy feature on Dream On. But I'm going to keep that in my pocket until the summer. But would you read us the first line? I would love that.
Okay. I'll do the first line of chapter 1. Because I do have a prologue. So I side note, I did not originally write a prologue. I feel the same way about you. I'm like, no prologues, no. And my editor's like, I think you need a prologue. I'm like, really?
But yours is very functional. Yeah. Like yours has a purpose.
Yes.
And had that been chapter 1, I think it would have been awkward structurally.
Yes.
So
indeed.
I agree. You got good advice. I would have also told you to do a prologue.
Exactly. Yeah. So once she explained, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'll do that then. But I'll start with the chapter 1 line. Just
okay.
It's very short. Life with a head injury is nothing like the movies.
I love it. It says so much about her character too, that like that's the way that she presents the injury, and also considering the comp that comes to mind when I think about the book, and that there is this real 90s rom-com vibe, which is like, I think we can all agree, the heyday of the modern rom-com.
Golden age of rom-com, yes.
Golden age of rom-com. So I love it. I will give all of my precious thoughts about the first line in rare style, closer to the July 5th release. July 5th is also Prim's birthday, so I feel like it's just a blessed day for everyone.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, like so much to celebrate. Happy
It's
early
going to be
birthday,
a really
Prim.
big day.
It's gonna be a good day for us.
She's 11. She'll be 11. It's very exciting.
Aww.
So I can't wait. I can't wait for everybody else to read this. Thank you so, so, so much for joining us for the critique today. It was so much fun. I will be posting a replay with closed captions ASAP. There is a vicious fight in my town to get your kid registered for spring events through the rec center that starts at noon. And so I have to do that first. Otherwise my kids will be shut out of everything worth doing.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
And it'll be another, another spring of like pickleball at 5:30 on a Tuesday. You're like, great, hashtag childhood. So I'm going to go do that. And then I will get this uploaded. And it was so great having you. I hope you'll come back.
Oh, thank you. I would love to. And thank you again for having me. This was a blast.
Of course. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Angie. Bye.
Bye-bye.